name is Pastor Bumi Olabi. I'm the senior pastor of Kingdom Embassy Church. Today, I'm actually looking at the issue of marriage as it relates to the church and the world also. And I'll begin to, examine and this particular issue from the biblical point of view, because it's the standard for marriage, is the manual for marriage. And at the same time, also, I will also begin to shed lights on solution to the problems in our relationship based on my experience as a married man. I've been married for over 18 years. And also, I've been in the marriage counseling ministry now for well over 14 years. And so I believe very strongly that I have some things that I can share that can be of help to you in your relationship. I'm not coming to you as someone who is perfect, who knows everything, but I'm just coming to be able to share my wealth of knowledge and experience, and I also share the grace of God upon my life to be a blessing to you. By the virtue of my personal experience in marriage, and also by the virtue of my opportunity to be in a position to be able to talk to people and counsel families, husband and wives in this particular area, I've developed a very strong burden based on what I've seen going on in homes and my personal experience also as a married man, and also as somebody who is in a position to be able to talk to many people about marriages. I just see the need to start coming up with something that can really be of help to many people who are having struggles and problems in their marriage. I believe very strongly that there are many people out there that will be opportune to listen to this episode that may want to kind of pick interest in what we are talking about here, because they have some peculiar challenges going on in their relationship. The truth be told, there are problems and there are challenges in marriages. And we all know that when it comes to healthy marriage, many of us Christians, even people that are not born again, are not Christians also, are having their own share of the challenges, of the crisis, of the turmoil, of the critical, precarious, challenges in their marriage. We all know that one major problem of the church of our generation is marriage. It's a major crisis that is actually affecting the effectiveness of the church, affecting the effectiveness of believers, affecting the effectiveness of the leaders also in the church these days. Yes, it is true that there are problems in marriage. It is true that there are crises in marriage. It is also true that for every problem there is a solution. Considering the issue of problems in marriages is not limited to the pew. The pulpit also has its own share, and that is why it's important that a real forum is created to be able to begin to look critically into some of these issues that we're having in our relationship, and also to begin to come up with practical solutions that can best, resolve some of the challenges that we are facing in our marriages. And that is why I tag this episode, marriage for real. Because indeed, we all know that marriage is the only institution where you are given a certificate before you start the school. In a traditional institution, we all know that until you complete the courses and until you pass those courses, you can never be given a certificate. But that is not so in marriage. Here we are, we have a certificate in our hands when we don't even know what to do with it. Now, to kind of lay the foundation, it's important to kind of say this without mincing word, that marriage is God's idea. Marriage is God's idea. We all know that where there is a design, there is always going to be a designer. And where there is a masterpiece, there's going to be a mastermind. Most of the time, the problems that majority of us have is that we do not really take time to consult the designer of marriage and the mastermind of marriage to look for the solutions to our problems. We look elsewhere. We devise several other means, except the one prescribed by the designer of the marriage. And so we're going to begin to look at some of the critical problems that we have in our marriages. For real, some of those critical challenges, some of those critical problems. And as we look at those critical problems, then we'll begin to take them one by one to begin to address them and begin to provide solution to them. And I would want to encourage, if you have questions, as I post this on Facebook, on YouTube, get it on our website. Please feel free to ask your questions, make your contributions, and in my next episode, I would love to kind of address some of the questions you're asking, and also I'll be able to kind of perhaps share some of the contributions, some of the wisdom that you're going to be sharing with us, so that one way or the other we'll be able to reach a large number of people that are having problems in their marriages, and we'll be able to, in our own little way, make the impact that is necessary, that is needed to our world as it relates to marriage. As we all know, in Genesis chapter 2, if you read verse 18, you know, when God created man, God looked at man and he was lonely, and he was, I want to say to a very large extent, miserable, because loneliness can actually cause a man to be miserable. And there are many people in their marriages as we speak, even though they are living together as husband and wife, they are lonely in their relationship. And that is why their marriage is miserable. God look at man and his miserable state, look at man in his helpless, hopeless, and perplexed state. And God made a decision to create a woman. When we're told that the scripture says that God said it's not good for a man to be alone. That's a fact that cannot be denied. It is not good for a man to be alone. And so if you're out there, perhaps you are yet to get married, or you're already in the relationship but you're alone in your relationship, God says it is not good. So instead of sweeping the problem under carpet, pretending that it's not a problem, instead of kind of trying to trivialize the implications of that to your health as an individual and to the health of your relationship, it's important for you to accept and to admit the mind of the designer of marriage that it is not good for you to be alone in your relationship. That is why it's important to begin to look for solutions in the right source as to fixing the problems in your relationship. As we know that a man cannot completely realize the essence and the purpose of his existence outside of the wife. I don't care how well you have put your plans together. If you are married, you cannot run the journey alone, because it is not good for a man to be alone. Now, as God was going to begin to unfold his ultimate plan for the world, the terrestrial that he created, he made sure that the woman was in place. He made sure that the woman was in place. And that's actually very, very important. We have to make sure that we understand the place of our wife in our lives, the place of our wife in our destiny, and allow them to assume that God-given position or relation or responsibility in order for them to fulfill their own portion of destiny. So looking at the statement that God made in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, that it is not good for a man to be alone, the implication of that basically is that you can only be a better person as you come in unison with your wife. And that's very, very important. I know that could be something, a little bit difficult to achieve because of maybe the challenges that have been going on in the marriage. But it's important for you to admit the fact that marriage makes a man a better person. That's number one. Then number two also, when you consider the statement that God made, when he looked at the state of man, he said it's not good for a man to be alone. So the reason God created the woman was so that she can become an assignment to the man. Therefore, when you look at marriage based on that understanding, marriage by itself, it's a ministry. Marriage is a ministry. Until we begin to see marriage as a ministry, we cannot really have any headway in regards to resolving our problems in marriage. Marriage is a ministry. What is a ministry? A ministry is God's given assignment to someone for someone. A ministry is an assignment given by someone to someone for someone. That is what a ministry is. And until you find yourself at the center of what I've just said, you can never enjoy your marriage. And that is why I want to kind of begin at just kind of making a list of some of the problems that we're having in our marriages. And then I'll be able to elaborate more on why marriage is a ministry. Marriage is a ministry given by God to man for the woman, or either way. Marriage is a ministry given by God to the woman for man. And so it's important that the three stakeholders in this relationship have to be in the picture and must have a clear a symphony of understanding in order for that institution to work very well. A man must understand the mind of God. The woman must understand the mind of God, the purpose of God, the aim of God, the counsel of God, the intent of God, the reason God has brought the two of them together. Is very important. And when there is a clear understanding of that, without a shadow of doubt, you are laying a very solid foundation for your relationship. But when you are ignorant of this fact, you have a very long way to go. Now, let me make just a quick mention of some of the problem that we're having in our marriages. Knowing fully well that if the purpose of a thing is not known, the abuse of it, as we all know, is inevitable. If the purpose of a thing is not known, the abuse of it is inevitable. If you do not know the purpose of your marriage, without doubt, you will abuse it. If you do not know the purpose, the reason why God brought that man to your life, or why God brought that woman to your life, you will abuse the man, you will abuse the woman, you will abuse your husband will abuse you. But the moment you begin to understand the purpose of your marriage, you will discover that in a very short space of time, the issue of abuse will be eliminated. Now, let's just kind of make a list of some of the problems that we're having in our marriages today. In some other episodes, I will begin to elaborate or expatiate on all these problems. I will begin to look for, solutions according to the mind of God, and also by the wisdom of God in tackling some of these challenges. Some of the problems that we have in marriage, number one, is misconception about the marriage. Many of us do not have a better understanding, a clear understanding of what our relationship is all about. And that is the truth. Another problems that I have here on my list is unwillingness to embrace God's instruction as outlined in the scripture. When we're having crises and challenges and problems in our marriages, and here we have the word of God to give us guidance and correct us, but we are not willing to take to the advice, we are not willing to take to God's counsel, then we're going to have problems in our relationship. Another problem I think we have in our relationship is ignorance of His purpose, arrogance of both parties involved in the relationship, pride. There are many men that are very arrogant, very proud. They don't want to be corrected. They do not want anyone to tell them what to do. Nobody can point their attention to what they are doing wrong. And there are many women also that are very heady, very stubborn, and self-willed. When there's arrogance in a relationship, you can be very sure that the two parties will be locking horns and knocking heads from time to time. One man once said that the problems of marriage is that there is very few words, but many locks. Very few words, but many locks. Husband and wife locking heads together from time to time, like rams. And also another problem that I believe people have in their marriages is cultural biases. Many men have this traditional way of looking at marriage to a point at which they become lopsided in their thinking. Many men and many women also have their paradigm, of looking at marriage. They have their paradigm. And if you are ever going to make a headway in a marriage, you must have a paradigm shift. A paradigm is a subjective way of looking at things. A paradigm is simply your own personal, subjective idiosyncrasies. The way you look at issues subjectively based on your experience, based on your personality, based on your environment, and based on your exposure. And so, if there is ever going to be a solution to the problems in your relationship, there has to be a paradigm shift. Another problems that we have, that many also have in marriage, is unfulfilled, selfish dream. You see, many people come to marriage with lists of unattainable expectations. Many people come to marriage, with the understanding that yes, now that I'm married, the other person has to be all in all for me and has to meet this need and meet that need. And I mean, so when you come into a relationship with the mindset that your husband is going to be all in all for you and meet all your needs and take care of everything that you need, sometimes it may not be so. And so you see problems in marriage when people come into the relationship with unattainable. You see problems in marriage when people come into a marriage with unattainable expectations. Also, sexual ignorance. The issue of sex is something that, quote unquote, seems to be a little bit sacred to the church, that is hardly addressed. And it's one of the most critical problems in marriage. And many of us, there are many people also who are involved in marriage who are very ignorant about this particular concept by the virtue of their exposure, by the virtue of the fact that they are not really schooled in regards to the intricacies of that in the relationship. And so they cannot really handle that area very well. By my, and I've seen a lot of couples, I've seen a lot of women and a lot of men who, were willing to open up to say, this is the problem I have in my marriage. But oftentimes, many people don't want to talk about it. People like to kind of shy away from the challenges they are facing in that area. So when you're talking about sexual ignorance, we'll talk more about it in other episodes, and we'll begin to do some analysis as to, how that area can actually, how we can resolve our problems in that area. And as you know, that if there is sexual ignorance or sexual problem in a relationship, it can breed many things. Number one, cause sexual starvation. Number two, it can also cause sexual manipulation, and ultimately can cause infidelity also between parties and between couples. And so it's important to kind of look very critically into that area and really discuss that at length to help our marriage. And also the lack of communication between husband and wife. I mean, that is very prevalent in many homes. Husband and wives are living as co-tenants. They do not have a common ground. They hardly talk about issues, that pertain to them. And so we're going to address that also. Another problem also is third-party interference. Third-party interference. Many times we allow a third party to come into our relationship to a point at which they become thorns in the flesh of our relationship. Finance can also be a problem. Most of the time also, finance can be a critical issue in a relationship. And we've seen that also play out, time and time again, a situation where maybe it is, the husband alone that is working, and then the wife is not really bringing anything to the house financially. That can cause some pressure. Or where, the wife is the only one working, and the husband is not really bringing anything serious into the house. That can also cause a problem. Another important issue I think we have to address is the issue of security in the relationship. Many men are not secured in themselves, and many women also don't feel secured in their relationship. And that to a very large extent can bring about agitation, can bring about fear, and can bring about distrust, on the part of the woman. And so these are many other issues as God grants us the grace we're going to address, and I believe that God will help us, and as He begins to give us a solution to the problems in our relationship. Once again, I want to appreciate you for taking time to listen to this episode, and I look forward in the later future to sharing more with you in this regards. And I believe very strongly that God ultimately will intervene in your relationship, in your marriage. And I want to hear your testimony. I want to hear your comments. And as God begins to intervene in your home, please, it's going to be an encouragement to me personally if I'm hearing the testimonies of how God is beginning to intervene as you listen to these episodes. Thank you so very much. God bless you and have a nice and wonderful rest of the day.